When I was asked a few weeks ago to offer today's message, I immediately said yes, especially when I learned that the overall theme for the month was on hearts of service, community service. I got excited when I learned that practitioner Judy would talk about, it's all about me. And I loved what she had to say last week, didn't you?
Yes.
Judy spoke about how each of us creates our own reality through our repeated words and our focused thoughts, how the universal creative law responds to the feeling tone that accompanies those thoughts and words and intentions. Feeling gives our words juice and adds to the divine power that's behind them. Judy shared a bit about growing up in a community where she felt connection. And that connection can also influence how you create your reality and in the way that you serve the world, whether it's doing so through a church, other social organizations, or individually. And then I looked at what the topic title was for me today. It's not about me. Instead, the topic I'm going to share with you is about how you aren't here for you. You aren't here for you. I'm not here for me. Could be a little confusing. Last week it's all about me and now it's not. Looks like we're going to get some clarity today, so let's get started. When I think about hearts of service or community service, I usually think first about those that do so through a church or spiritual community. But that wasn't always the case. I didn't grow up in a community like Judy's. I didn't know that kind of connection or a deep level of service in my neighborhood or in my childhood religion community. However, as soon as I became involved in religious science, I was moved to serve. I was so grateful and excited to learn about these responsive universal laws that I wanted to give as much as I could. I figured it would be a good test, too, an experiment to see if they really worked. I looked forward to giving of myself and my time and my treasures. The ministers and teachers would say, you can't outgive God, but I was going to try. I'm still trying. Because what I've discovered is that the more I give from my heart, my being, with love and joy and gratitude, I get to engage the law of cause and effect. And Spirit returns to me many times over, whatever it is I'm giving. Sometimes we call it karma, but I believe in the law of cause and effect. So this kind of service, this serving the sacred, the divine, that lives in each one of us, by engaging in sacred service, or as our Eastern friends in the Sikhism tradition call it, seva, we get to experience so much more than just trying to shove stuff in our pocket as fast as we can so nobody else finds out. When we serve from a higher consciousness, we transcend our small, clutching ego self, or as I like to refer to mine, some of my friends know that I have named her Maggie. We transcend the naggy part of ourselves, and we get to tap into that unlimited connection of divine love and peace and abundance and joy and serenity and unity. We get to live from that God space. And when you do that, when you live from that God space, from that spirit center of your being, then you are connected to the divine and to everyone else. Then it's no longer about me, one person. You're no longer here for you, the human, frail you. Instead, it's about the divine you, the connected you. There's a beautiful Sufi teaching that reads, "Past the seeker, as he prayed, came the crippled and the beggar and the beaten. And seeing them, the seeker cried, 'Great God, how is it that a loving creator such as you can see these things and yet do nothing about them?' And God said, 'I did do something. I sent you.' And that is absolutely true. Our hands are the hands of God. Take a look at your hands right now, palms and backs. Are they not a miracle of creation? The way they're formed, the strength they have, and yet the incredible sensitivity that comes with it? Think of the service they provide you in your own life. Think of all you create with your hands. And when you use your hands in the service of another, you are doing high and holy work. You are performing an act of God. It is then that you are not here for you, but you are here to serve the divine. When one engages in seva, sacred service, there is amazing good, not only for the one being served, but also for the one serving. It's reciprocal. You may know that intellectually, but truly until you have experienced it, you can't quite know it at the heart level. I love these words of Ralph Waldo Emerson. It is one of the beautiful compensations of this life that one cannot sincerely try to help another without helping himself. Of course, we all get this concept when we have an open awareness of the giving and the receiving idea, because we are all one. When I serve you, I am as blessed as you are. And when you serve me, you are as blessed as I am. Different ways, perhaps, but still blessed. Gandhi said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. The mystical part of this is, you never know how your act of service or kindness or givingness will impact the world. You just have to trust that it does. And in the Bible, Ephesians 6, verse 7, it states, with good will do service, as to the Lord and not to men. If we look at doing service with good will or intention, as we call it, as to the Lord, God, Spirit, and numerous other names, doesn't that change the whole perspective of the why of our efforts? It takes us from doing something for this person or that cause or your church. It takes you from the physical, earthly reasons of being in service to a higher power, your higher self reason. You are then no longer doing it for some reason out there. You're doing it to serve the heart center within. It's coming from your soul. It's powered by the divine. And then it comes back to you in abundance from different fields or sources. The universal law of cause and effect is circular, maybe even spiraling, which is the way the universe evolves, which is the way your DNA is created, in a spiral, ever expanding, rising, becoming greater. The more you give, the more you receive. Now there's a story we can use as an example. One night at 11:30 at night in 1965, an older African-American woman was standing on the side of the highway, trying to endure a lashing rainstorm. Her car had broken down and she desperately needed a ride. Soaking wet, she decided to flag down the next car. Now a young white man stopped to help her, generally unheard of in the conflict-filled 1960s. The man took her to safety, got her some assistance, and put her into a taxi cab. She seemed to be in a really big hurry. She wrote down his name and address, thanked him, and the taxi drove away. 7 days went by, and a knock came on the door of the young white man. To his surprise, a giant combination console TV and stereo, this is 1965, remember, were delivered to his home. How many of you had a giant combination TV and stereo in your house growing up? A special note was attached. The note read, "Dear Mr. James, thank you so much for assisting me on the highway the other night. The rain drenched not only my clothes, but my spirits. Then you came along. Because of you, I was able to make it to my dying husband's bedside just before he passed away. God bless you for helping me and unselfishly serving others. Sincerely, Mrs. Nat King Cole. So Gandhi also reminds us of the importance of doing this type of service, seva, the highest form of giving of ourselves. He says, I shall pass through this world but once. Any good, therefore, that I can do, or any kindness that I can show to any human being, let me do it now. Let me not defer or neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. That's the ideal form of serving and living. Because what I've learned is that when I do seva and serve others, I grow. When I'm in that sacred space of unfettered givingness, I'm not only helping others, but I grow in the process. This is where I strive to live as much as I can. Unfortunately, I'm not 100% successful in this endeavor yet, but I still grow. We grow through effort and experience. Now, seva is the ideal. What happens along the way? How do we get there? Perhaps a little background will help, and I'll share some of the things that I've done as well. In case you haven't noticed, for those who don't know me well, I love the science of mind philosophy. I love it. From the very first sermon I heard to this very moment, and all the struggle of self-exploration and growth in between. This has been my religion of choice. Yes, it's a spiritual path. Yes, this is part of a religious organization. Yes, it's one of the New Thought teachings available to any of us, at least in this country. There are a couple of things specifically that I love about the teachings of Science of Mind. Number one, it's a practical spirituality. It's based on universal laws, proven laws that work the same for everyone. You can test them any way you like, but they continue to work time after time after time, just like gravity, just like electricity, doesn't matter who you are. And once you understand the basic concept, you can begin right where you are. Number two, Science of Mind is based on prayer. The power of prayer. There's a process or a technique that we use. It's called 5-step prayer treatment or technique or 5-step prayer. While it's helpful and you're encouraged to learn the 5 steps in order, there's no memorization of certain words. There's no begging God. There's no bargaining either. Every prayer is unique, filled with positive affirmations and declarations about what you want to create or express or experience in your life. Treatment clarifies and sets your intentions in motion to be acted upon by the universal laws and create what you desire. For example, based on the thoughts or words that you focus on most often, those are the experiences that you will likely bring into your life. Now that either brings an uh-oh or an oh yeah. And that includes worry. Worry is a prayer. Don't go there. The founder of religious science, Ernest Holmes, said, there is a power for good in the universe, and you can use it. That power is the creative energy behind our words and prayers. And number 3, because Science of Mind is based on the principles found common in the world's religions, the major religions, I have the freedom to explore them all. Holmes also described the origins of religious science like this. The philosophy of religious science is nothing new to the world. It is rather a synthesis of the greatest concepts that have ever come to the mind of humankind. The laws of Moses, the love of Christ, the ethics of the Buddha, the morals of Confucius, and the deep spiritual realization of the Hindus all find an exalted place in the philosophy of religious science. How cool is that? I can delve more deeply into each and every religion, take what I like, leave the rest, and I have unlimited religious freedom here. Why would I ever want to go anywhere else? Number 4, last one. Another aspect of Science of Mind that I love are the classes, the education. I have taken every Science of Mind class and workshop that I could in the past 24 years, and I will continue to do so, or repeat them. And yes, in the process of taking so many classes and going deeper into my studies, I was able to earn a couple of doctoral degrees along the way. And Maggie is very happy about that. I can't stop myself. There is so much more to learn because I know that I don't know everything about my spiritual nature. And I want to learn all that I can while I'm on this plane and prepare for whatever comes next. As I dig deeper into my God nature, the voice of Maggie isn't so loud. It won't ever go away. Human ego or personality serves a purpose in our lives. However, I prefer it not to be the dominant voice in my head. So the classes have helped me to identify and differentiate when Maggie is barking orders versus when that divine, beloved, still small voice is guiding and directing me. When we stop learning, especially about ourselves, our God nature, we stop growing. We stop growing in consciousness, in awareness, in service to life. And you know what happens when you stop growing? You die. It can be a physical death, an emotional one, a psychological demise. But I want my spiritual nature to be vibrant, alive, and aware, don't you? So one of my favorite quotes is by George Bernard Shaw, just a piece of it, who said, I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. That's how I want to live. Implementing universal laws and expanding life experiences, living in such a way that my life is a prayer, every day, every action, every thought. And taking classes that expand my awareness about how to do that more and more, about life, about me, about you, about other belief systems. All that is available through the Science of Mind philosophy, this practical spirituality. It's a beautiful place to be. I'm so glad you guys are here today. And as I share these ideals and suggestions about service and prayer and education, while the intended focus is about the good of life, the God presence in everything, you might be asking, but what about all the bad that's going on in the world? Can't you see what's happening out there? Take off those rosy-colored, airy-fairy glasses that you're wearing. Or as one friend of mine used to comment, stop spreading the RSBS, the religious science bullshit. As we saw in the video a bit ago, and we see nearly every day on television and in the media, there's a lot going on in the world that reeks of negativity and not good energy. There's sad stuff and situations, war and destruction and illness and death. And yet, we get from Persia and the ancient Sufi masters came the wise words, this too shall pass. Whatever it is, whatever we judge to be good or bad, shall pass away eventually into another form, another experience, another way of being. We can notice what is before us and still look for the good hidden within that situation. Just because you're a religious scientist, that doesn't mean that you don't see what's going on in the world. In fact, I demand that of myself. But it's how we interpret it or judge it that matters, and that is what becomes our experience, is our interpretation of it. We may not like what's happening in our lives or the world, yet there is a positive aspect inside whatever is happening around us, if we're open to seeing it. That is our challenge, individually and collectively. That is where the growth occurs. And when we can do that, when we can see the good, no matter what is going on, and focus on the overall positive outcome, then we'll know we have grown spiritually in our awareness, in our love, in our service to humanity. A couple quick examples. It's devastating, all of the natural disasters that are going on right now. But isn't it a great thing that we have the technology to warn people so far in advance that they can prepare and get out of harm's way as much as possible? It didn't used to be that way. And many more people lost their lives. We don't have to live like that now. And what if no one believed in the concept of war? Think about that. What if no one on this planet believed in the idea of conflict or war? What would happen to our planet? To our societies? That's just one idea. A big one for sure, but imagine. And it starts with you. It begins with you coming from a place of divine love, the God-centered you. It includes dropping judgments, thoughts of separation, and differences, especially those based in fear. It means embracing unity and oneness because we are all one at the core of our beings. Everything and everyone. And if you can believe that you aren't here for you, but instead you are here to unify humanity, to embrace every being on the planet, that could be your full-time endeavor, your service to the world. And if everyone did that, would there be war? Probably not. Now that's a big ask, a big challenge. How does one even begin? Start where you are right now. Begin today in this moment. Examine your thoughts, your choice of words, the beliefs, especially those you brought with you from childhood. Maybe take a class to dig into the deeper consciousness that you have. That would be helpful. You could journal. Put your thoughts and your beliefs and your ideas right out there in black and white and have them reflect back into you. Is this who you really are? Or have you grown? Whatever method it takes, you and I can start today to make a difference and experience how this too shall pass. We can go from judging something good or bad to looking at something as it just is. I heard one time on a radio program, it is what it is until it isn't anymore. And then using the universal laws of creation, trusting in the law of cause and effect, we can implement those changes through our intentions, our words or actions and beliefs and prayers. You are the starting point. You are ground zero. What are you going to do with the power of the universe at your back? What are you going to do to utilize the hands of God before you? Mother Teresa said, we ourselves feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean. But the ocean would be less because of that missing drop. Another quick example. Have you seen that commercial? I think it's for an insurance company, where it's usually on a sidewalk, city sidewalk street, and everyone is doing, one person does something good for someone, and that is seen, or that person does it and passes on, does something good for someone else. And it goes through a whole cycle of people doing good for someone until it gets back to the person that started it. That's each one of us every day. We may never know the full impact of our words and what they will have on others. Some of them, yes, but likely not all of them. We may never know the full impact of our acts of service that it will have on the world. How far-reaching the effects will be for something we've done or something that we've been seen doing. Do what you can with what you have and make it your best you. That's all any of us can do. In the Prosperity Plus class, we explore how to tithe our time and talents. The calculation we use is based on the 40-hour work week. 10% of that, meaning giving 4 hours a week of your time to some type of seva, sacred service. Now that can be in 5-minute increments at the checkout register, by raising the vibration of the cashier with a smile or maybe bagging your own groceries. It can be volunteering to babysit for a young couple or a relative so they can have a night out. It can be lending a hand to a neighbor for a few minutes or a couple of hours, mowing their lawn, maybe taking them to the drugstore so they can get their prescriptions, or just sitting and having a conversation to ward off some of the loneliness from being by themselves all the time. And of course, you can donate to various communities and to this church. There's a sign-up sheet at the back here. These are ways that you can serve God, your community, and at the same time honor your higher self, the interconnectedness of life. Truly, it all comes back. How and where you give, you receive. Finally, think again of the Sufi story shared at the beginning of this talk, when God said, I did do something. I sent you. We are all here for a purpose, including to serve one another in some capacity. There are countless ways you can express who you are through service, and you get to choose. Not only how, but also the what and the how often. You get to set the boundaries and the direction. You get to name your interest and participate. And the more you give, the more you receive. I believe that with every fiber of my being. Try to outgive God and see where it takes you. Dennis Merritt Jones, an author, minister, and now a church consultant, wrote in his book, The Art of Being, a profound question that I want to share with you today. Think about this. He says, I ask you now to live in this question. Why have you come to earth? And why have you taken birth at this particular time? Why have you come to earth? And why have you taken birth at this particular time? Think about that. Why here? Why now? Why you? He goes on, the answer lies within. As you awaken to the presence of God within you, you will remember and the answer will be revealed. By taking birth, you and I have come here to touch life in a way no other person can, leaving this planet a better place than it was when we arrived. Does this mean you have to be part of a service organization in order to love, serve, and remember why you have taken birth? Perhaps so, perhaps not. That is for you to discover, he says. But make no mistake about it, service is not something you do only in your spare time. Every person in your life is there as an opportunity for you to remember why you have come to earth. Every person, every event, every circumstance you encounter offers you a gift. It is yet another chance to love, serve, and remember to love. That's why you are here. Remember, God sent you. Let's have a prayer. I'd like our practitioners actually to come forward this morning and join me for prayer. And while Reverend Dr. Mike, is designated as practitioner on duty today, any of us would be happy to pray with you. Just take a breath. Right here, right now. It's all God. It's all divine. It's all you and me. And as I think about the qualities of God, the peace, the love, the joy, abundance, serenity, unity, harmony, I know that I am that too. Each one of us is created in the image and likeness and qualities of God. They're there waiting for the discovery of us, putting them into play, putting them to use. And when I connect, when I unify with that presence, they are all those qualities are accessible to me at any time. I start where I am, right here, right now. And I realize that as I go forward into my day and as you go forward into your day, each of us has the opportunity to serve, to love, to connect, to express the divine through us. Our hands are the hands of God. How shall we use them? Not if, but how. There are so many ways to serve. We've already recognized and acknowledged so much of what's going on in the world. And at the same time, there is such joy, such love, such humanity, such givingness. Notice that too. So I give thanks for the opportunity to serve today, to be part of this community, to speak these words. And as I release this prayer and my intentions for service and love and peace and harmony and joy, as I release them into the law of creation, I know they cannot come back to me void. They are acted upon immediately. And for that I am so grateful. And I say yes and thank you. And I invite you to join me in saying, and so it is.